So the idea of this is based on kind of like some of the text adventures and things like that we've done. We're going to try and put like a little free sort of 2D map into the game, which our character is going to have to kind of get across. So I didn't want to just show you me typing these out altogether, but these are the two starting points that you're going to need. So you need a dungeon map and a player map. Now the dungeon map is what we are going to try and get around, and all it is a 2D array. So the 2D array, in this case, contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's 8 different arrays with 9 positions in each array. Now if you actually look at this, you'll start to see there's a couple of sort of consistencies with it. All the way around the edge of my dungeon I've got zeros. These are going to represent the walls. I've got an E here, which represents the exit, and then these numbers, we're going to talk more about these numbers, but each one of these numbers, when my character actually traverses into an array with one of these, it actually does a certain thing, so it kind of triggers a certain scenario. So for example, if my character goes into here, there might be a piece of treasure or something like that. Underneath here we've got the player map. So basically what this is a representation of the dungeon where the player can't see anything like the numbers or where certain things are. So this is where they're going to actually traverse through, and this bit here is if they want to have a look at the dungeon map and where they are, for example, and where they've been, this is the map that will get printed out. So just start off just by copying out these two maps, and then we'll go from there. Bear in mind these are 2D arrays, so we've got the double brackets at the beginning and end of each one here, and double brackets at the beginning and end of each one here. Now, with regards to the numbers in this, I put numbers 1, 2, 4, 5, 8 and a star in. Okay, basically what I think you should do is use zeros for the walls which go around, ones for any walls within your dungeon which people can't get through, an E for the exit. Make sure you use an E for the exit, and then whatever other numbers or symbols you want to include within this. Maybe just start with 1 or 2 to begin with. So pause the video now and create your own dungeon maps and your player map. Right, now that you've done that, let's actually look at how to work with this and how to get both these maps displayed. What we're going to do, we're going to create a little function here to actually display the player's map. So in order to display the map, we're going to call it display map, and it's going to take an argument of maps, and we'll talk about that in more detail in a second. And we're going to say for x in range of 0 to 8, print map. Print map x. Maps x. So this is just going to basically iterate through each one of the arrays and then print each one. So from range 0 to 8, it's going to go through each array and then print maps x. It's going to print each line. We're going to pass this argument into it in a minute though, when we actually start looking at actually selecting the maps and things. So this next bit here, you don't need it, but it's good to have it because what it will allow you to do, dungeon. So what this will actually allow you to do is, if say for example you wanted multiple maps with different levels, you could create them all up here, and then you could change the map choice at the end of each level. So you could just set this, or set map choice to the next map at the end of the level. At the moment we've only got one map, so I'm going to set that to this, but if you wanted another map you could create it underneath, and then if they complete this map, so if they get to the E, you can then load in the second map and go from there. So that's something to think about. Now that we've got this, let's actually just call this function and make sure that it actually works. So display map, and it takes the argument map choice. So here we can see that our actual function for displaying the map will actually work, and obviously this will work for whatever argument we give it. So we can give it the player map as well, and we can have the player map displayed in this way. But obviously we won't want to show our players the dungeon map because then they'll be able to see exactly where all the rooms are. We want to be able to show them the player map. But from a testing perspective, we can see that this is actually working and the whole dungeon map is being displayed. So let's get on to the main kind of loop and initialization of this. We're going to start by giving our player a position outside of our loop. And we're going to end up editing this in a second anyway. So we basically just need to initialize position, and we want to do that outside the loop because we don't want it to reset its position every single time inside of the loop. If we initialize this inside the loop, we're going to have an issue. So we're going to make the main loop here, and we're going to call it main. It's going to take some arguments. And the arguments is going to take the map choice that we've actually chosen, the player choice, the player map that we've drawn out, and the position that we've just set, that we've initialized. And what we're going to do now is we're going to give a X position and we're going to give a Y position. And actually, inside here, once we've done our X and Y, what we can also do is we can give some inventory if we're going to pick things up. So for example, if there's a key that we need or something like that, we want to create a variable for it here and set it to false to say that we've not picked it up. If there's another item that we want to pick up, we want to create it here and set it to false to say that we've not picked it up. So any items that you want, so you can have as many different items as you like, create them here and set them to false because you haven't got them. Now the next bit, we're just going to print out map choice Y X. Now I'll explain why we're doing that the wrong way around in a second. At the beginning here I want to display the starting position, so it's just going to display whatever is within this our coordinates here, which are 3, 0. So 3, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3 is here. We're going to start at this 0 here. So if we look on the player map, that's where our S is as well, so that's where that is there. Now, you might be wondering why we've done it the wrong way around when we talk about coordinates. We usually talk about coordinates as X and Y. However, with using 2D arrays, we could look at it as X and Y, but it's actually easier if you do it this way around. Each of these arrays, the Y position, basically how up and down, which array we're looking at up and down, is actually always the first number, and how far along in that array is always the second number. So if I want to access this top array here, and I want to access this position, I would actually do 0, 1, like that. And actually that's the opposite to how normal coordinates work, because technically these aren't actually coordinates. But to get them to kind of look like coordinates and act like coordinates, we're going to add them in this way. So we're going to pass map choice the coordinates the wrong way around. So Y will actually be the position for the array up and down, and X will be the position for the array along. So basically this means that our X and Y are still X and Y the way we would normally use them in maths, an X-axis and a Y-axis, but they're just swapped around. So we do Y first, up and down, and then we do X, which is along. I hope that makes sense. There would be a way to swap those around, but just add another complicated function. We don't want to do that. We want to keep it simple. Okay. Position equals 0, and now we're going to get into our main while loop here. While my position is not equal to E. So while my position is not equal to E, while I haven't actually escaped, or while I'm actually not in this position, I want to do the following. I want to, first of all, I need to keep track of my previous position. Okay, so basically whenever I hit a wall or something like that, I need to be able to be pushed back into the position I was before. If I accidentally go into this wall here, for example, I don't then want to then be able to go into this next bit here, because then I'm no longer in the game. I basically, every time I hit a 0, I want to be pushed back into the position I was just in. Every time I hit a 1, I want to be pushed back to the position I was just in. So it's important that when we go through this, I keep track of the previous positions I was in. Because obviously I need to check the position I'm in, and then I need to, if they are a 0 or if they are a 1, I need to set myself back to the previous position so I don't end up accidentally wandering out of the map. Now we're going to just check, do the movement bits here. So movement equals input, and the movements which I'm going to take are basically north, south, east and west, and I'm also going to take an argument for map as well, so they type in map. I'm going to use the .upper function to turn that into an uppercase as well, so it doesn't matter if they do it lowercase or uppercase. You can give them a bit more direction here as well if you like, saying you know, type in the direction you want to go or something like that. Now I need to just give each one of these a command, so I'll do the first one and I'll speed through it and you can see how I've done the rest. So let's just look and explain each one of these movements here. So like I said before, with the Y and the X being kind of inverted, let's do the Y first of all. So every time I go north, I'm going to minus 1 from my Y. So if we think about, if my starting position is here and Y is up and down, this position is actually 3. So if I want to go north, I would want to go into this position. Well, this position here is actually 2. So to go north, I'm going to minus 1 from Y. And the same for going south, but obviously the opposite. So in order to go south, I need to go to this position. Well, this position is 4. I'm currently at 3. So to go south, I need to add 1 to my position. And the same goes for the moving east and west with my X and Y here. If I wanted to move east, so that's right, say. So if I was here again, and I want to move right, well, I want to move from position 0 to position 1. Well, that's going to add 1, isn't it? So east is going to be add 1, and west is going to be minus 1. So that's how my movements work and how they actually will get set out. So in that final bit there, if my movement equals map, I want to call the display map function, but this time the argument I'm going to give it is the player map argument. So that'll just display for us the player map. Okay, so this bit here, basically here I'm setting my position to whatever my new X and Y are, because obviously some movements have happened, these X and Y coordinates have changed, so I'm now setting my position to these X and Y bits. But also what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same position on the player map and I'm going to set that to X. So what I'm doing is I'm traversing this dungeon map while every position I actually have been to, I'm putting an X in the player map, so that when my player draws the player map, if they need to, it'll actually display every X where the player has actually looked at. So now we're going to get into looking at some of the actual specific, what to do if you hit a 0, what to do if you hit a 1, all the rest of it. So I'm actually going to type through a couple of these and then I'm going to explain to you. Okay, so what I'm going to be looking at, just talk you through these 3 options which I've come up with so far. So you can, I'll show you all the options I come up with in a second, but these are kind of a couple of just examples to get you going. So first things first, you need an argument here for when they hit a wall or a 1 basically. So I put 1s in and 0s as my wall. Really actually I should just use the 0 all the way through. But basically I'm saying that if the position is 0 or the position is 1, I'm saying that you've hit a wall, you stumble into the darkness and back to your previous position. And it's at this point I set the x and y to the previous x and y that I collected at the beginning of the while loop. And then I use these to reset the character's position to their last place. So basically they've hit the wall, they've stumbled back, and you get another opportunity to go into another direction. This next one here, if the position is equal to a full stop, it just says, this is just sort of a standard, there's nothing happening, you're in a dark corridor, there's doors in all 4 different directions. So if I'm at a full stop here, nothing is happening. You can use a full stop for those, you can use a space, you can use whatever you like. Obviously it has to be reflected here. So, and this last one is if position equals 2, I'm saying that you enter a room with an old maid at the table, ask you a question, you put your guess in here. If the guess doesn't equal river, we basically have the maid pushes you out the door, so we set your x and y to the previous x and y, and you're back outside the maid's room, so your position is then the x and y. If you get it right, it says you may pass through the room, and then you're at that position ready to go to the next one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a few more of these to show you how else they would work, and then I'm going to talk you through some of the different options. And obviously, so I've just got a few more final bits and pieces here. So I did another one here. So if the position was 3, I basically had 3 as a locked door. So if my key was false, so I hadn't picked up a key yet, it says you come across a door but you have no key for it, and I set my x and y to the previous position, and I go back into the previous room. If I do have the key, so this is true, it allows me to pass through this room. Okay, so that's it, that's true. We'll see where I pick up the key in a second. If my position is 4 here, you go for a small crack in the wall. It's so small though that you lose all of your inventory just for going through the crack. So that means you can bypass the locked door and you can bypass the riddle and things like that, but you'll lose all of your inventory. And here's how I do that. I just set the key and the sword, which are the only 2 inventory items, and I set them both to false. We go from there. At the end, I've got, if we look at the end of my map here, just before I get to the end here, I've got 5, so that, this is kind of like the end boss. So if position equals 5, you see a troll appear ahead of you. He wants the code for you to leave. I've said that the code is the word Zork, which is kind of like an old school adventure game. And what I could have done is I could have put more clues to that in the other rooms and had my character build up more clues, and that's something you can do. So if the guess is not equal to Zork, I'm going to set my character's x and y to their previous x and y, just like I've done every time I want to push my character back to the previous position. If it is equal to Zork, I'm saying here that the troll is actually annoyed that you got the password right. He makes a grab for you, and we've got a second little check here. So if you've got the sword, so if you've got the sword, you actually managed to defeat the troll, and you can move through the room. If you don't have the sword on you, you end up going back to your previous position anyway. So you then have to go back through the dungeon to try and find the sword. If our position equals 8, when you find a rusty key on the floor, you pick it up and put it in your pocket, and our key equals true there. Finally, so the last one as well, I haven't actually said about the sword. Where's the sword? So there's the sword there. If my position equals the star, in the darkness you see a dull glint, you go over and inspect it, it's a sword. Sword variable now equals true. So I've now got a kind of a scenario that happens for each one of the different items that could be in one of these positions in the array. What I now need to do is just finish it off by saying, so not indented, so if I go down to here, go backspace once and backspace again, so I'm out of the while loop. So basically, if I manage to make it through here, my position is going to be equal to E, so my position is going to be here, and it's going to break out of this while loop, so while position is not equal to E. Once I've broken out the while loop, what I need to make sure, one indent in, so in my main but not in my while loop, I'm going to print you made out alive, And that's it, that's the end of the game. So let's run it and actually see if it works. I've miscalled mattress somewhere. Line 37. There it is, it's capital C. Let's try it again. Okay, so we've got our dungeon map here. We've got our starting position, which is a 0. We know it's this 0 over here. And we've got north, south, east, and west. So if we start going east, I've done mattress wrong again. So this is why it's so important to make sure that you consistently call your variables the same thing. In fact, I think I've done it wrong all the way through here. So if you bear with me a second. Okay, let's try that. So go east. Okay, so I'm in a dark corridor. Let's go east again. I'm in a dark corridor again. Let's check the map to see if I'm actually traversing through. So we can see my player map here. Start, and I've got these 2 X's. I know I'm here. Well, let's try going south. Dark corridor, dark corridor. Let's try the map again. And we can see here I'm actually taking a right turn. Let's try east. I've hit a wall here. So I stumbled back to my previous position. So let's try north and see if I can get anything going right here. Okay, I'm hitting a lot of walls here. Okay, here we go. So you find a small crack in the wall. You can easily squeeze through. So this is the actual. This is part 4. So I'm actually in my map. I'm here. So I've accidentally hit this crack here. I squeeze through the wall. Well, I don't have anything on me at the moment, so I can do that. Let me see that I'm actually here. Go east again. Let's see if I can get to the end. So I'm actually here. I'm too high up now. So let's try going south and then east. Okay, so here's my troll. Let's say that I know the answer, which is Zork. It makes a grab for you, but I don't have the key at the moment, so go back to my previous room. So now I need to start traversing the rest of the dungeon. So my player can see exactly where they've been, but they can't see what's in these other rooms and what where they need to go, so they can traverse around and work it out from there. So I hope you've enjoyed that little tutorial. Let me just go back through one last time. So just on the different bits within the while loop here. Every single different one of those positions in our list has its own action which you can code in the while loop, and you can make as many of these as you want. You can make as many different dungeons as you want, just load in the one that you want to work with as you go. And finally, sorry, to actually call the program is called main. It takes these 3 arguments: map choice, player map, and position in order to get running. So I hope you found that useful. There's a little bit back and forth on that, but I'm sure you'll be able to work out something and you'll be able to actually make a really cool dungeon.